Well, folks, we got, 5 days till the election, till the official election day. It's now Halloween, and I have to say, this must be a very, very spooky night if you're a Kamala voter. It must feel so frightening. The thought of an impending Trump victory, the idea that there's some ultra-MAGA extremist hiding around every corner, down every alleyway, behind every bush, under every rock. The idea that Russia is about to take control of the American government and that dissidents will be rounded up just like they were in Germany back in the 1930s. After all, we learned from Trump's rally in Madison Square Garden that he is no different from the Nazi Party. That was the narrative coming out of that event, and we have every reason to believe that at least, the loyal Democratic voters, they truly believe this. They actually think that what's about to happen is a fascist coup. And I'm not saying that to be comedic. I'm not trying to make fun of them. I actually want to take some time to consider the ramifications of this on the psyche of our Democratic neighbors. What's going to happen to them on Tuesday night or Wednesday morning or whenever it finally sinks in for them? And will this manifest more in the form of fear or rage? Either reaction would not be positive. It would be irrational. It would be ill-advised. But I can't call it unexpected. I think that this will be much worse than the reaction that a lot of people had to the 2016 election, because after 2016, people were in shock. They did not think that it was possible that Trump could become president. I certainly didn't. Of course, I wasn't one of these TDS folks. That wasn't my reaction to Trump winning. I just, I saw it as not a serious campaign, and I didn't think that he was going to win. And then when he did, I thought it was very funny. I thought it was, going to be fun. And other people had the opposite reaction. They did get upset, but they took solace in ideas like Russiagate. Russiagate was a cope. And I mean that in the most honest sense. It was their way of coping with the idea that this terrible, awful, no good, very bad man had been elected in a free and fair election by their neighbors, by their friends, by their family. And so Russiagate became their way of trying to make that okay. They said, oh, no. People didn't actually vote for Trump. Russia stole the election. That's what happened. And the few people who did vote for Trump, they didn't do it honestly. They were tricked into voting for Trump. They were misled by Russian disinformation. That's it. It's the only reason. But now all that's been taken care of. Russia's been defeated. We've got our good Democratic administration in there running the show, and they will ensure that our elections will be free and fair, which means Trump will lose, right? Well, odds are, as of right now, wrong. Trump is not going to lose. The Democrats are running the show. And it looks very likely that he's going to win, because Kamala is such a terrible candidate. He's going to win because Americans are voting for him. And so that, I think, will, the double whammy of a second Trump win is going to shake a lot of these people up. They're going to have to accept that, no, this wasn't just all about Russia all along. There are actually people in this country who support Trump. And I think the reaction from the Harris base, from the generic Democrat base, is going to be a rejection of their fellow countrymen. I think they will come to the conclusion that the people are the problem, and that their Republican friends, neighbors, and family members are a direct threat to their safety. And so once people get into that mindset, it can justify all sorts of very dark thoughts. Because if you take things that you're willing to do in self-defense and you remove them from the realm of self-defense, all of a sudden these become very dark acts. If you're chopping firewood in your backyard and all of a sudden some deranged man hops the fence and starts charging at you with a knife, and you swing your axe and hit him, knocking him down dead, that might be a gruesome scene, but it's nothing evil, it's nothing vile, it's nothing to be condemned, it's nothing you should feel sorry for because you were acting in self-defense. That crazed man with the knife put you in that position. He forced you to defend yourself, and there's nothing that you could have done about it to prevent that. But all of a sudden, if you take that out of a self-defense situation and you just walk around and whack a man with an axe, chop him up for no apparent reason, that's crazy. That's evil. That's the situation we find ourselves in as a country. The Democrat base is going to feel threatened. They're going to feel the need to defend themselves. And some of them will be willing to act on their right to self-defense. Everyone believes in the right to self-defense, even if they are, left-wingers who hate guns and, want to make that illegal. In the most basic human level, people are going to lash out when they feel threatened. Look at the congressional baseball shooting. That was a diehard Bernie volunteer who felt after Trump won that Russia had taken over our government. And so he took it upon himself to try and right that wrong. He tried to take out a number of Republican members of Congress. And I think we all have to ask ourselves, if we were faced with the threat of literally Hitler occupying our own country, what would we do to fight back? What sort of lengths would you go to overturn a Nazi occupation government? Would you look to the annals of history? Would you emulate the Free French? Would you learn from the tactics of the Italian partisans? If the answer is yes, then we could potentially be in for a period of our own troubles here in the United States, of domestic terrorism, real domestic terrorism, motivated by very real feelings. The kind of terrorism that once it gets rolling can't be easily stopped. And people on the left in the United States, let's be honest, they're mostly kind of wussy. They're not prone to taking action. There's not a lot of testosterone. And they're not really prone to this sort of action. So they've had to be wound up a lot more, I think, than the right would have to. If it was the right who constantly had the media telling you that, this person is Hitler, they're going to kill you, all this stuff. I think that if the right had been fed the level of propaganda about the Democrats that the Democrat voter base has been fed about Trump in particular, not just Republicans in general, but Trump in particular, that Trump is uniquely evil. I think if they had been fed that steady diet, the right would also resort to violence, and I think they would do so sooner because, hey, we're the ones with all the weapons and the testosterone. It just sort of makes sense. But even the left, they still have their limits. We've seen these real skinny soy boys come out of the woodwork and try to take violent action in order to deter fascism. as they see it. There have been 2 attempts on Trump's life. The third one, I think, was a hoax by I think it was the Riverside, California Sheriff's Department. Didn't seem to be a real assassination attempt. But there have been 2 confirmed attempts on Trump's life just in the past couple months. And I think these attacks will extend beyond him to his supporters, to his political allies, once his victory is confirmed. I think the desperation will only increase. I don't think that people are going to give up on defeating Trump just because he is declared some winner of some election. I think that if he gets back in office, he's going to face even more of an uphill battle than he did after the 2016 election. I think that the regime is going to redouble their efforts to take him down. And so I see things getting worse before they get better. I think that Trump smartly reconsidered his choice for vice president after the attempt on his life. I think he was leaning towards Doug Burgum before somebody tried to kill him, before he was shot in the ear. And Doug Burgum would have been a big mistake, because with Doug Burgum as vice president, Trump would have been walking around with an even bigger target on his back, because Doug Burgum is somebody that the regime would love to deal with, much more so than Trump. Doug Burgum is not a threat to anyone in power. But by picking Vance, he made the choice of someone who is, as far as other Republican politicians is concerned, someone who poses still a good threat to the regime, although not nearly as great of a threat as Trump himself. And so Trump understands that if he gets taken out, which is a possibility, there have been 2 failed attempts, but you never know if the third, if it won't be third time's the charm. If God forbid that happens, I think he rightly wants someone by his side who he knows will carry on his legacy to a great extent. Even if not 1-to-1, they're not the exact same person. But at the very least, Vance seems to be his own man thus far. He doesn't seem to be just another team player, for the GOP. Seems to have beliefs. And there's not too many guys in Washington that I can say that about. You've got Massey, Paul. Those are always the first 2 that come to mind. I think Ron Johnson has really proven himself the last few years. There's a couple others too, like Mike Lee. Arguably Hawley. I didn't trust Hawley at first, but I do think that there is some genuine humanity in Hawley. But anyway, Vance is, I think, one of the guys in that club. And by the way, I'm not referring to any kind of an ideology. This isn't an ideology. It's just a general sense of, not just being there to collect a paycheck and, be a part of the regular Thursday congressional orgy. So, to try and wrap things up here on a somewhat focused note, I think that the United States, if Trump wins, is going to, or I should say, I hope we're going to enter a transitionary period. Maybe it won't be radical change, sure, but it will be the beginnings of some moderate reforms. Trump doesn't have to be George Washington or Thomas Jefferson. I think that we would be in a much better place if he's just Mikhail Gorbachev. Because I think even light reforms will bring our very fragile system to its knees. I think the whole thing will collapse if you start to pull out some of those Jenga blocks. If Trump does start to undermine the deep state, expose the truth of the Kennedy assassination. These are all very big ifs because they're things he should have done in his first term and didn't. But if he's serious, if he's emboldened after the attempts on his life, and this truly is 4 years of retribution, then I think that we'll never be able to go back to being what we were 8 years ago. I think that things will change for the better, even if they get worse in the short term. Even if conditions worsen, our prospects for the future will improve as the regime weakens. But who knows? There's always a chance that Trump gets into office and tries to play ball again. That's why I kind of went on idle mode for 4 years while Trump was in office, because he just wasn't following through. He was trying to play the game. He was trying to play ball. He tried hiring insiders. And all of that backfired. So hopefully now he's got that out of his system, and that he knows that going scorched earth is the only way of achieving his goals. So with that said, I'll see you folks back here in the next one.